Yo, what's going on? What's going on, folks?
The device already ready to connect. The external sound mode.
Yo. What's going on, folks? Man, today we are going to talk about double standards and how useful they can be. All right. So, if you guys are interested in coming on the show, don't be afraid to click the link. Click the link that's in the comments from any one of the Facebook pages that you see right there. And we're going to have a good conversation, the usual. Let's see here. See who we all got showing up. Let me see if my man Tony available too. I like to call people on the fly sometimes. If you stay ready, you got to get ready. All right. So here's the thing, right? I don't even know if this is going to be a long cast today. I just want to get the conversation going because I want to talk about double standards and how they're useful. So, we talk about the difference between men and women and how we communicate and all that good stuff all the time, right? So, and I pardon me for being so fidgety, trying to get my seat together and get situated. I'm running behind, just wanted to make it on time. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, Garfield, feel free to jump on. Feel free, So, I was talking about double standards and how we can use them as ways to gauge, how far left and right the other person is in their own reality. You know what I'm saying? So, I think it's time to talk about that and how to make it useful because we repeat a lot of stuff, man. A lot of same problematic context, things that we are all pretty smart on. And I feel like it's time to have a more centralized conversation about, well, if we always repeating it, how do we use it now? Because anything that repeats itself is a recipe, got a cycle, something in it, negative, positive, whatever. So, I wanted the audience to be in tune with what I was trying to communicate here because I'm tired of the conversation that leads to a fight about men and women do this because they want to break even or they want to get even, be petty, however, right? But isn't it more important to understand how do we navigate that space once we're in it? So I felt like, well, how do I use the conversation of the double standard as a way to gauge, the effectiveness of even using the phrase? And what I came to the grips with is that the double standard is just the boundary. The minute that you have to get into a hypocritical posture, that's your invitation to either leave the conversation or ask more questions that give you more understanding, to understand how far down the road that person is from being even able to hear you. Because how many times you come to a conversation, it doesn't matter what you have to say, the other person has already got their reality formed. In some cases, yourself, if you're the other person, and it's like, what's the point of even having a conversation? So I think the point of it all is that if you could recognize when somebody gets into that defensive posture in the conversation, that you have a choice to either make to stay in it, continue, or whatever you want to do with it. So, I'm like, I want to see if anybody else felt the same way, could find that idea useful. You know what I'm saying? Because we're just kicking stuff around because we got to figure out how do we communicate better with each other when we know that that is key to us doing better in life. So in the meantime, while y'all kick around that conversation, oh man, meantime while you kick around that conversation, I am going to keep inviting people and tell them to come and join the chat. Waiting on my uncle to get here. Let's see here. Let's see if we can get old Uncle Junior up here, contribute to the idea, and try to reverse these things on their head, and trying to you know use what we've been given to get what we're supposed to have. So, and I think that is very vital. Let's see here. Hang on a second. Got some people hitting me up saying some no code shit. Hey, look, we are at a time where we don't have to have certain arguments with people. So, why not? Why not figure out what we could do to sort it out? Hang on a second. I'm gonna block this out for a second. You guys hang on. What's up, Unc? Come on in. Having an audio problem for a second. Let's see here. Yo, Chris, what's good? If you're available, click the link. All right. So, other news for everybody's got folks down in Florida dealing with the inbound hurricane Ian. You know, keep those folks in your thoughts and prayers. Don't know how bad it's gonna be, but sometimes we get kind of an omen about what I'm saying, what's to come. So this is where you hope for the best in general, because hurricanes are really popping this time of year in the Gulf of Mexico. What else is popping? Uh, what else did I miss? Of course, everybody talking about Nia Long. I don't even want to really dwell on that because we don't know every single detail, and it's a relationship. What else? Yeah, man. We just have to really focus on what makes sense and what doesn't. And right now, we are, we got a great opportunity in front of us to, to just work with each other and really mean well for each other. We don't have any unhealthy competition. None of us went to high school with each other. Nobody, had an inappropriate relationship with somebody that's in their timeline. And we've talked so much about how people have changed when you interact with them in person versus the ones that we built relationships with over social media. And now we have a different medium of understanding with each other, because most of us have been Facebook friends for quite some time. You know what I'm saying? Some of us have made money with one another. Some of us have been support systems in some ways. Uh, we have mentored one another. We have learned from each other. So we've already proven that social media can work if it's being used the right way. And it's up to us at this point to figure out where do we go from here. So with understanding that, we have, um, you know, accountability issues, and sometimes you can't get to a baseline of understanding what accountability really means, because that means something different for somebody else. A lot of people lean on the fact that it feels like an attack. A lot of people think that it's about them. And even if you use very neutral terminology, they will assign their blame to the problem anyway. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of negative projection out there in the world. You know what I'm saying? And who we got here? Oh, there he is. There he is, the Uncle Junior.
Mm-hmm. You hear me?
Yo, I got you good, man. What's going on?
Not much, man. Not much.
Oh man, hold up. Check my audio real quick. All right, say something for me.
Something for me?
Okay, that works. Hey, test and tune.
Hey, I remember doing that in Texas.
Man, look, for real, man. You know, I got to thinking about this topic, because the double standard is ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? Just the nature of a conversation is rooted on a double standard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it generally leads to nowhere. It
Mm-hmm.
generally leads to people saying, well, that's what women do, or that's what men do, that's what he does, or that's what she does. Oh, you know how they are, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But I've learned to use the double standard to gauge how crazy the other person is. You know what I'm saying? Because I know how far I'm willing to go in my right and reasonable mind, you know, then I know how far I'd be willing to go in my unreasonable mind, because we all have to balance something between those decision making, you know what I'm saying, points, because there's part of your mindset that wants to give somebody exactly what they deserve. You know what I'm saying? And then there's part of your mindset that says this is very expensive. Let's figure out another way around it, right? So what are your thoughts about double standards, and what's your first thought that comes to mind when you hear them?
First thought coming to mind was I'm okay with double standard.
Me too.
I don't have a problem with it. Um, whether it benefits me or not.
Yep.
There are some situations where double standard benefits me, and there are other double standards where it don't benefit me. But I'm okay with both. There's a double standard when it comes to men and women, as far as who we choose to lay down with. If a man lays down with a bunch of women, he may be looked at as being a pimp, a hoe, homeboy, all these good things, but it may or may not be a big issue. But if a woman lays down with a bunch of men, she's looked at as having a different type of name. The double standard, it is what it is. I don't have a problem with it.
What do you think the benefit of a double standard is?
Mm, I don't know. I think part of the double standard, it just goes to show that when it comes to, and only because I brought up women, I really don't want to go there, but men and women are, for the most part, well, not for the most part, men and women are not equal. We're not the same person. So there are going to be different standards when it comes to different things, whether it be men or women, or whether it be cats and dogs or whatever. There are different standards. Um, so I
I
don't have
agree.
a problem with the double standard.
Neither do I. And reason being is it's clear and cut boundary. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
exactly.
Yeah, like for instance, the double standard of like people arguing about the use of public bathrooms a couple years ago, right?
Hmm.
Now at home, everybody used the same toilet, man or woman.
Hmm. Yeah, everybody, you the same one.
And
Ain't no,
then
I don't have a urinal at my house, and I've never been to anybody's house, any man's house who had a urinal.
yeah, but a couple years ago, there was a huge debate in your state in North Carolina about
Hmm.
access to the bathrooms, right? Uh,
Hmm.
and people had general concerns that um, were along the lines of some LBGT stuff, and you know what I'm saying, like thinking that somebody's gonna get violated in the bathroom. One side thinks that it's completely okay, and another side finds it completely, you know what I'm saying, ridiculous.
Hmm.
For whatever reason, they have their choices of how they see the matter. That's why you gotta have like the all things are true mentality approach to it, especially when it's not a thing for you, but it somewhat affects you depending on where you are. You know what I'm saying? Like if you lived in North Carolina, you'd have a different argument if you saw that versus not living in North Carolina. You know what I'm saying? So you got a option to pick and choose when you care about something, right? But until it affects you, the double standard doesn't matter.
Yeah.
altogether. And so once you're impacted by it, that's your opportunity to understand what the boundary is. I look at it like it's a custom and it's a courtesy. You know what I'm saying? No different than if you're in a different country. I look at everything that I don't understand as being from a different country. You know what I'm saying? And you either like that country or you don't. So if I go over here, the argument is based on a double standard. And if I'm trying to force my perspective into the wrong space, it's me trying to take away that person's authenticity. You know what I'm saying? So I protect my boundaries the same way because my personal experience is valid. You know what I'm saying? So I think we get caught up in debating double standards when we don't consider the other person's personal experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I can rock with that. I think so I threw up in the chat doubles the before we spin too far, I threw in the definition. I don't know if you had already done it or not, but I looked
No, I
it up.
haven't.
And it just said a double standard is a set of principles that applies differently and usually more rigorously to one group of people or circumstances than to another. There's always going to be double standards. My where I'm at right now is figuring out where the double standard is. And figuring out how to navigate through it or understand it to where I can still be successful and get what I want at the end, even though there is a double standard.
Agreed. The double standard to me is just a boundary. You know what I'm saying? It's like
be there.
It's like house rules. You know what I'm saying? Like if you playing a card game or you shooting pool or whatever activity it is, you know what I'm saying? You determine the rules at the beginning of the game.
You can use the N-word. Totally double standard.
Yep.
And there are certain people who believe that certain people can say it and other people can't.
Yep.
There's a double standard. There are certain people who can get into a certain club and other people who can't. There's a double standard. I don't care. I just don't go to those clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Me personally, I don't fight the double standard. I accept the double standard for what it is, and then I move on accordingly. So for me, it is as simple as that. But I understand, for talking points and growing the conversation and stuff, that it can be more to it because some people don't like the double standard, and then because they don't like it, they don't want to accept it. You don't have to accept it. It's going to be what it be. And I hate to say this, but I'm going back to it again. It's probably the last time. But when it comes to even men and women, like based off that example that I gave earlier, if a woman, you may not like the double standard that, men maybe not looked at in a negative way. They have multiple partners. May not like that double standard. However, if you choose to exercise that and go out there and sleep with a bunch of guys, you're going to get the double standard that comes with that as well. So
you got to take everything that come with it. You can't have it.
Come with it, good and bad.
Hey, you know the irony of it is that we're talking about double standards, and the reality is that after you make the choice, you can't have it both ways.
No.
After you make the choice, you made the choice. You just can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
So like if you choose to refrain from certain activities, you're gonna get criticized if you critique somebody else performing the same activity that you didn't do.
Mm-hmm.
So really, like when the minute that you come to a conversation about yourself and you see that this is a double standard conversation, that's really like an invitation not to even go in.
Yeah.
And find something better to do with your time. Because if you get to that point and you go in, you're making a choice to go into an echo chamber, a spin cycle of you just repeating stuff that you've heard before because you think it sounds cool. Now you're in a debate instead of a dialogue. Now you are in an unhealthy competition and everything that comes with it. You know what I'm saying? Because some people are not willing to accept anybody else's point of view on anything. That's why, like, I hear what you're saying, but like you don't care about anything I said before that. You heard what I was saying, but you're still not listening.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that when you get into the weeds of it, how to make the double standard useful, it just depends on the topic. It can tell you how to vet people, how far you can talk to them, how long you can talk to them, when you choose to engage them. There's some people you only call when you're driving.
Yeah.
Because if you talk 2 minutes too long, you know what I'm saying, you might be in a different type of situation. And anybody put you in a defensive space should really be off your radar. You know what I'm saying? Or not off your radar, but out of your cycle of interaction. You know what I'm saying? That way. Or if you have to interact with them because business or whatever, you got them in a box where you can see them, and you have an expiration date for when, you know what I'm saying, your time is up with them. All of those are boundaries because
Mhm.
you know how far you can go with people. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Man, so I got this topic because, I think I was talking before you had came on. Like, how do we use double standards to our advantage to creatively solve our problems? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
As part of a conflict resolution barrier. And I think, and I don't know if this is to be true. I know you're a counselor, but what methods do you use to try to make double standards make sense to people that are having problems with that?
Mm. I had to think about that for a little bit.
Yeah.
Start having diarrhea of the mouth.
It's understandable, but that's a good question though, right?
Yeah. Because
Because
I
you
guess
have,
I don't use the term double standard a lot, so I have to, try to think about some double standards that I may see at work. Um, well, actually, you know what? I got one. Um, Double standards. All right, it may not be a double standard, but it may look like a double standard to a child. So I'm an elementary school counselor. So there are children who may need more. Um, they may need more support, right? There may be a student, let's say a student has a bladder problem, right? Or they have a disease where it affects their bladder or something to where they have to go to the bathroom more often,
more frequently than not. Yep.
more frequently than other students. Well, this student is allowed medically, and because he needs to have a medical plan, and that student is allowed more frequent breaks to go to the bathroom, right? So everybody in the class don't know that. The teacher knows that. The school counselor probably knows, and the people who are need to know, the other places where the student are going to be, if they go to gym or go to music or something, they need to know that this student has an issue and they need to go to the bathroom a little bit more often than other students.
Agreed.
Well, other students don't see that. They say, "Hey, can I go to the bathroom, Mr. Martin?" And Mr. Martin tell them, "No, you just went." I'm just giving an example.
Oh,
And
it makes sense.
yeah, so the kids are like, "Well, why is it that he gets to go and I don't?" So one of the things that I'll tell students is, after I tell them to shut up and mind their business, I'm just picking. Um, but I know one day people gonna want to clip that up. So there was a free one for somebody that want to come back and be like, "Oh, you said this." But the reality without the context.
Give them some free ticket, man. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Anything to get
yeah,
it's provocative. It gets the people going.
yeah. So you tell the child, like, "Hey, you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, that's not any of your concern. What goes on over there is between that teacher and that student. You don't need to know everything, but maybe that child has something going on in his life to where they may need to go to the bathroom a little bit more." So part of the double standard is, I think, is partly is, that may or may not be a double standard, but like I said, to a child who's in second or third grade, they may not understand why Vic gets to go to the bathroom more than they do. And it's like because, the student wakes to bed, you don't tell them. But like I said, to the child, it's a double standard. So what you do is just you don't have to reveal all the information. You try to explain to them that, hey, there are different strokes for different folks. So you worry about your stroke and let them worry about their stroke. So at the end of the day, mind your business. Um,
Oh, that
kind
makes
of
sense.
sort
Like, that's why I say double standards are also a boundary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Boundaries itself are invitations for you to mind your business.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the boundary. Like the minute that you into a conversation where somebody's trying to, compare their situation to your situation as if it's verbatim, you know, they don't know where you started. They don't know what you did to get yourself in whatever position. Like for instance, right? Um, you fly a lot, right? Or have flown a lot.
I have flown a lot.
Okay, are you familiar with Clear?
Mm-mm.
Clear is this identity service. Like when you go to the airport, if the airport offers it, you can just get escorted right to the front of the line at TSA. You know what I'm saying? So it saves me a lot of time, saves us a lot of time. You know what I'm saying, when we're traveling, because you can imagine getting to the airport and people trying to line up, get through security, because most people are going to be flying, you know what I'm saying, coach or whatever, or just in general on the same flight. But with Clear, you get your bag checked in, you know what I'm saying? You ain't got to take your shoes off in some airports, and you walk right through the front. As soon as you go through, some people are already waiting in line, you know what I'm saying, so they can get their boarding pass read. And then and a lot of people, I've had interactions where people are like, well, how come he gets to go up there? And that gets into the need to know. You know what I'm saying? If I'm being escorted, you don't need to ask nothing else. You know what I'm saying? Which goes back to the example that you gave about the kids, you know what I'm saying, having questions about, in that scenario of who's going to the bathroom and why do they get that opportunity to go as often. Well, number one is certain provisions has already been put together most times. And number one, and number two, it ain't your business. It ain't your plan. So you don't know what that person's obligation is already. So, when we get into uh, like that type of conversation, it's real easy to put that with Karen behavior, people that get way out of bounds, you know what I'm saying, about minding their business. So do you have like a personal situation where, like you was on one of either side of the double standard? Most of us to have, but like, do you have one that you can kind of like relate to? Well, thanks. Do you
Probably.
think people can relate?
It's probably been so long because my mindset about these things are kind of different now. So um a lot of those things are kind of sort of behind me now. You know.
Yeah, that's why I was asking, because it's easy to look back and and think,
Yeah.
but you're different now than what you used to be. The things you used to care about don't register anymore, and you know what I'm saying, it's just not a thing. But if there's anything that ever stood out in your professional career that you can
Yeah.
discuss,
I
you know.
can think of one now. So last year there was we do surveys in school, and in the survey in school, overall the staff that kind of ranked my team kind of low, um, kind of saying that we, kind of like we wasn't involved, which is fine. Um, but I think a lot of it, actually, let me back up. Let me back up. I don't want to go there with that one. I think sometimes, yeah, because I don't want to, dip too much in my,
That's why I said, is if it's something that you could discuss.
yeah, just because there's a double standard. I'll say there's a double standard when it comes to, um, in general, just counselors and teachers. Not a double standard. I think it's just sometimes people don't know what the other one does. So someone may say, "Oh well, and I may not see the counselor, busy or doing things, but what they may not understand is that it's one counselor and it's 500 students and all of these staff, and it's just one person. So it's like, why does he get to do certain things? But it's like I have to have more flexibility in order to meet the needs of all 500 people versus a teacher who may only have to meet the needs of her 18 to 20 students. So there are different things. There are going to be some things that I'm going to be allowed to do that they may not be able to do. And it may look like a double standard, but to them, but in reality, it's just a position. It's just a job position or the job title. So I think, even going back to what you said about managing your business, sometimes it could be people who are, making things a double standard, which may not really be a double standard in the first place.
A lot of false equivalences.
And it's
Like,
because they don't know the context behind or understand the context behind why things are different or why so and so is getting and I'm not, and I think that has something to do with it too. And it goes back to it ain't none of your business. You don't know why.
man, everything come back to minding your business, right?
Mm.
And so for the men listening to this, we've been talking about 30 minutes now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this comes back to like I'm gonna start having like accountable masculinity quizzes. You know what I'm saying? So what's rule number one?
Oh, I don't know.
It's men focus on men.
Oh.
You see what I'm saying? It's like
Mm-hmm.
if you minding your business and you staying in pocket and you staying on code, double standards don't affect you.
Mm-hmm.
Double standards let you know what I'm saying, how to navigate. Because you don't know how far left or right you can go with something. And if you don't turn me up. Hey, men focus on men, man.
Yeah.
Accountable masculinity. Let me go put the banner up. Hold up. Let me do that right there. Boom. See?
At the end of the day, you don't know, like, for you to say something, I mean, there's always going to be, they're not even double, there's just different standards. Everybody
Yeah.
has different things. Everybody has different needs and different wants. And yes, there's obviously some malicious standards out there. You know what I mean? On purpose, but everything ain't a double standard.
No, everything is not a double standard. Some things are just the way that they are. They are just
Yeah.
written the way they are. Like from state to state, country to country, law to law.
Why is marijuana legal in Colorado and it ain't in North Carolina? Like, why you
The
worried
people
about
own
it?
it.
Move, and you
Move.
worry about it. Move.
Yeah.
Instead of complaining about why you don't. That's just me. You know what I mean? Yeah, it may be a double standard, but at the end of the day, I can do two things. I can move over there or I can shut my mouth and deal with not having it over here. So
Yeah.
it ain't
Chris.
my business why Colorado, allow their people to use cannabis and people in North Carolina don't.
Right. Chris, what's going on?
What's going on, fellas? How y'all doing?
Man,
Great.
pretty good. Hey
You?
man, what you got for us, man? You being a fly on the wall today? You got something to contribute? What's up, man? You know what I'm saying?
I've been mostly listening
Mm.
about how you all explained the whole double standard, what it is, how it affects you, what you should be focused on instead of focusing on a double standard. I've just really been listening.
Mm.
And from what I gathered, it all linked back to your last comment, just minding your own business. Like seriously, like why it listen, man, double standards are they are what they are. They're always going to be double standards. There are always going to be some things that I can do that you can't. There are always going to be some things that you can do that I can't. We just have to learn how to move within that instead of complaining.
Yeah.
It's really it. There's to me, there's no such thing as fair across the board. Just doesn't exist, man. It just doesn't exist. Like Vic always say, you get what you can afford, and it's not about money.
Nope.
It is what it is.
Man.
I'm okay with the fact that I'm not cute enough to get into the club for free. Like, I don't have a problem with it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not mad at Chris because he got in the club and I didn't. Like, I don't care. You know what I mean? Next time I'm gonna wear some different shoes. You know what I mean? Maybe that's what it is. Or I'm gonna be friend Chris and see if I can go in with him. So
Yeah,
like
come on, Vic.
Hey, you know what?
me, I'm gonna try to figure out if there is a double standard. I'm gonna try to figure out how to get around it.
Yeah,
You
I'm
know?
gonna
And
try to get
see,
on the
that's
other
the
side.
difference, right? And see, that's the difference between us and men like us and a lot of other people. Instead of figuring out how to get what the other person got without hurting them, they try to make it seem like it's supposed to be like that for everybody, and it's really not.
It's not.
It's not supposed to be like that for everybody.
Yeah.
No, that's how you draw the line between people that have done hard work to earn, you know what I'm saying, a little bit more consideration. You know, I think there's a difference between like having a double standard as a narrative versus like in the army, what we would say rank has its privileges, right? What's the point of getting promoted or becoming successful in life if you don't gain certain privileges? It doesn't give a person anything to aspire to become if there isn't another set of rules. Sometimes it's just another set of rules, not necessarily a double standard. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't expect children that you raise to have the same rules as an adult, you know what I'm saying, in your house. You know what I'm saying? Like children got different bedtimes, or should have different bedtimes, you know what I'm saying, depending on what the education level is and whatever you deem is necessary for that child, right? And you got to raise your kids individually too, but also with some level of collective philosophy, you know what I'm saying, in the house. So kids get raised with different standards all the time, man. Like there's been times where like me and my brother would have to wash dishes. He would wash the dishes terribly, and nobody makes him go back and do them. I could wash the dishes, and my pops would bring the dishes back upstairs or something, and it looked like I hadn't done anything. You know what I'm saying? And then it looked like I hadn't washed the dishes, and then now I'm doing it again for a week, or even if I do make a mistake, it feels like the same thing before. And I'm like, I can't sit back and be like every time, you know what I'm saying, something comes up, I got to go and be like, hey, you didn't make my brother do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? That's dumb on the scheme of things. And as a parent, if you're dealing with some stuff like that, how do you explain, you know what I'm saying, that you're going to demand a certain level of proficiency from one kid than the next when you know that other, like one of the child, like one of the children, like you said earlier, is that sometimes you're going to have somebody that's better than you at something, more or less attentive, you know, and it creates you know, like almost like a reprisal situation where you think somebody's getting even with you or punishing you for doing something well. And we got that kind of a problem, you know what I'm saying, in general. Like how many times you seen in the workplace where somebody is really good at what they do and they can do some things extra outside of that, and then they start depending on that person for the thing that's extra because, you know, nobody else wants to do it or can't do it. But it's not even your gig, right? But nobody's holding those people that whose gig it actually is to the standard that you just created. That's wild, right? And then eventually they got you in an over-obligated situation. You know what I'm saying? So at that point, using the double standard to your advantage is because you've already completed and done the task and you possess the skill. And then you also know who's responsible for what, so they can't manipulate you. So sometimes you have to know the double standard exists just so you don't get manipulated. Would you agree with that?
And you also know how to negotiate. You say, hey, I'm here, but you asking me to do this along with this. So what's up with my pay?
Exactly. Yeah. Where's the compensation at?
Where's the compensation? You're not about to pay me to do this and I'm doing this and this at the same time. And what I'm doing extra ain't even in my job description.
It's especially when you need me. So we got to stop fighting about double standards and learn how to exploit the double standard, because that's what a double standard does, doesn't it? It exploits. It leaves room for exploitation, but you can exploit it in a positive way where you can take from it and say, you know what, this is where I need to refocus my energy. The minute that I see a red flag pop up that's associated with a double standard, you already kind of like keyed in on it and you're ready to make a move and adjust should a situation go left or right. That's the way I look at it anyway. So like indicators are not absolute, but they are absolutely indicators. Write that down. That's some free chicken right there.
Got that shit right. Go ahead and pull my pen out right now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Scribbler.
But on the flip side of that, double standards also have consequences.
Yes, they do.
They also have consequences, and a lot of people don't want to. They want the double standard, but they don't want the consequences that come along with the double standard. Very wise man once told me, "You can't take credit for what's going on. That's good. If you don't want to take the blame for what's going on, it's bad."
Mm-hmm. Yep. Man, look. I'm writing this down right now. Let me put this up here.
And the indicators are not absolute, but they are absolute. You got that shit right.
That's code, baby. You know what I'm saying? That's taking the same words and running it backwards. Like it goes in and out the window. You know, that's what a double entendre is. You know what I'm saying? It means different things depends on how it's written. And if we write a certain way, it forces us to look at how those words in that sequence, in that context, apply to us at that moment in time. You know what I'm saying? So if somebody wrote that down and showed it to you about double standards, you would probably be unaffected because you've already accepted that there's double standards. Like in general, men have to accept that there are double standards.
I think we accept it first.
Oh, we do. We have to. We definitely have to accept it
I think
first.
we grow up accepting the double standard. And I think that's why our transition sometimes to manhood may be a little bit better. I think that men growing up, men, if you look at men versus women, right? Women grow up, not all women, obviously, but women growing up with, what men want already been given it to them. And that's like beauty, femininity, whatever, blah, blah, blah. All these list of different things that men want. And like I said, beauty being one of those things, which is women are born with that. They don't have to work for that. If you have a nice body early on in life, you didn't have to work for that. Your genes and your parents gave you that. Men, on the other hand, we understand a lot of times that women want a certain amount of status out of us. So we understand, and we found out very early on in elementary school that most of the girls like the same guys, the same handful of dudes. So we understand that we have to work our way up in order to get what we want. And I think that, men, we understand that early on in life. And that's why I think that's why certain things are the way they are, and I think that's why certain times why women may struggle early on, and then as they start aging and they don't have a man, is because I don't think they really understood double standard. You know what I mean? There's a double standard when you go out and have 2 kids versus when the man has 2 kids. There's a double standard, regardless of what happened. You was 15 or 16. It's just a double standard, and you're going to be looked at differently by the person of the opposite sex. Most men, if they have money in the bank, they can have 2 or 3 kids, and a woman will still want them. But a man, he's not really. If he has $100,000 in the bank, he's not really looking for a woman who has 2 kids. So, like I said, I think we early on in life start to understand and learn what the double standard is, and I think. That's just how we grow up as men. That's just my 2 cents. A lot of 2 cents.
I'm over here trying to undo my hair because it's doing something crazy right now, whatever that is. But it's just long and unruly these days. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to tuck it and get it out the way.
I thought you was over there doing the Antoine.
No, I ain't doing the Antoine just yet. You know what I'm saying?
Just slicking it back in a ponytail because you about to get serious.
Hey, Antoine, I ain't gonna talk bad about him right now, but he got his standard blowout. You know what I'm saying? He's got his little Dominican blowback. So I ain't got that type of situation going on that he got.
They got a different type of hair.
Yeah. He got that fresh colonizer built in his blood. And so
That's wrong with saying it.
Hey, look, Chris, what have you taken away so far, man? Because your fly on the wall and then your periodic interaction, you're a really good listener, and I know you always have something in between that we might have missed, because this topic is like, to me, I wanted it to become something that we can kind of explore a little bit more, because there's so many things that you just rehash, speak 1,000 times. Different people have had the same conversation, and we've had more than enough stuff that we can relate to, whether we've been the antagonizer on one end or the protagonist in the situation, the victim. You know what I'm saying? Because somebody's had a role, you've had a space that you know what I'm saying, that you played in, where the real plan wasn't your business. You were just participating in it, and you had to understand it in order to know how to move forward. So, how have double standards impacted your life?
It taught me how to move and how to grow and to quit complaining. It is what it is. I can't. Everybody cannot do what everybody does, but some people can do what some people do. That's what I learned about double standards. Like Uncle Junior said, I can't get in the club for free based on how I look. I can get in the club for free based on my status in the city that I'm in or the people that I'm with, but that's a double standard. I have to build my value. I'm not inherently born with it. That's what I learned about double standards. I have to build myself to the point where I have the status to be able to do what the men who are benefiting from the double standard are doing. I can't just cry and complain about what they doing when I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. It all goes back to rule number one. Men focus on men. Do what you're supposed to do, and you don't have to worry about the double standard because you will already be in that top percentile that are benefiting from it. It is what it is. And I've also learned that there's been a lot of crying about the double standard. Quit crying and do something. Quit complaining and do something. It is what it is. And there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Double standards are inherent in nature as a whole. And nature just is. Nature does not care. Nature doesn't care if you're male. Nature doesn't care if you're female. Nature just is. So deal with it. Do what you're supposed to do and get where you need to be so that way you can move like they do or don't. There's no gray area middle ground. That's really what I've learned.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And it took me a long time for me to learn that because I was always focused on fairness. But there's literally nothing that's fair.
Yeah.
Nothing's fair,
Hey,
man. Like for real. Like nothing is fair. There's a difference between things being just and things being fair.
hmm
That's what I learned.
man, look, all you can have is
Is
what you
what
can
you can
afford.
afford.
Man, look, that's
And we
like
be
you
talking
see,
about money.
and we ain't talking about money either. All you can have is what you can afford, and that doesn't have anything to do with money. And
Mm.
that's a real simple thing to remember. And when you start applying that, you stop getting caught up in different uh, feelings based, what I'm saying, discussions. Like you were saying, like people can get fed up with like, well, how come that person has access to this? Well, they paid for it, whether it be in cash, resources, time, or something. They have earned the privilege and the access that they have,
And that's another
and
thing. Quit complaining about what you didn't work for.
man, like,
So,
and people confuse.
it,
Yo,
oh, so when I may have missed it, you may have said it, but when you came up with this topic and stuff like that, did you have a certain thought, or what was it? Something that sparked this thought process, something like that?
man, I try to think of like we always talk about ending the fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
But one of the components that
Please.
makes the fight go,
Yes.
one of the components that makes the fight go is arguing about double standards. You know how much time you spend saying, well, men do this and blah, 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 and then women do this, or you break it down by, you can break it down by race, by gender, by job, whatever. There's double standards everywhere. So you cannot escape it because that is the boundary, right? People argue over low frequency things that are rooted around, topics that are really just close to money. And if you had more affluence in life where you didn't have to work for somebody, didn't have to clock in and make the money you make to take care of the obligation that you have, then what would you be getting up for? Who would you be clocking in for? You know what I'm saying? So when you can put distance between you and people that communicate in that low frequency and get out of those unhealthy conflicts, you can have a different perspective. You can actually start at zero. Like for instance, Chris tells us all the time how he found us at this space in his life, and he had to get past everything that we've discussed over a series of videos, right? And now he's here and he's put all of that stuff behind. And his number one thing is got to get rid of your ego. So how do we help people understand that their ego is doing more talking sometimes than listening? Because I'm a firm proponent that when I'm having conversations, generally speaking, the other person is going to be. I'm more inclined to bump into people who have more audacity than discipline. So they'll say something, and and you know what I'm saying, and it sounds like criticism, but really is projection and negative projection from them because they're not happy about something with them. Because like conversation with nobody targeted, and we're just talking about ourselves right now. Why would anybody get offended when they hear what we're talking about?
Because hit dogs holler.
Oh, you seen a couple posts today, huh?
Yes, I saw that. It's amazing. It's amazing how a man can post something and people get offended by it when they name wasn't nowhere near the post. It's amazing how people can post a YouTube video or a TikTok video about a broad subject and a bunch of people hop in the comment section offended about what they say. The only reason people get offended is because they perpetuate the behavior that's being talked about and they can't differentiate. Put they can't tell the difference between us talking about the behavior and us talking about them.
Okay, that's great. Because like I'm getting to a larger point about Uncle Junior and his question. He asked me why did I choose this topic, right? Because I wish I had a diagram, but like if you drew some parallels between feelings and facts, let's say you got a situation, both are running parallel, like he just described one thing, right? Everything he's saying is based on feelings, but it's still true because it's still reasonable, right? Because feelings can still be reasonable. Then on this side, you got somebody that's saying the same thing, and their logic and reason is parallel to the feelings one. So they're in unison right now, right? At some point, when you have to ask the question, what are we gonna do about it? Because you can only talk to a certain point, right? Where you got to make a decision. And when you say what we're gonna do about it, you're gonna cross over here or you're gonna cross over there. You're gonna make an emotional decision or you're gonna make a reasonable decision, right? The person that's in their feelings that makes the reasonable, logical decision that makes the situation more understandable or whatever, that's the person that is going to make the choice that they can live with after they're done. You see what I'm saying? But the person that's over on this side that crosses over into the feelings, they're going to make some different decisions. So I use the double standard as a metric to determine how far somebody's willing to go to prove a point and say what they mean. And a lot of people don't really mean what they say. We say it all the time. So you got to cut the nonsense out really and just say, let's skip to the end, to the part where you made the logical decision and then work our way backwards from that. Because you're not going to do that other thing that you think you want to do. You really don't want to, because that's why you're thinking about it, because you're trying to amp yourself up to do it. You know what I'm saying? somebody can move off of violence on instinct, and some people can move off of logic on instinct. We have to bring that conversation closer. There's no in between on a lot of this stuff for some people. That's why you look up and somebody got shot from something stupid, or people are fighting for something stupid. People getting boxed out at football games. You know what I'm saying? What was the logical decision and what was the emotional decision that was made? That's a lot, but that's generally where I got that idea from. You know what I'm saying? Because I try to think backwards and try to make somebody. I try to understand the person. You know, the empathize versus sympathize thing. You know what I'm saying? Something happened to you, or something happening for someone else. You know, and trying to put myself in that position, because I want to generally understand why people dedicate so much energy in their 40s to just being stressed out about nothing they control.
Ooh.
It all the time.
Ooh.
Like,
Ooh.
I think a lot of what it is, people haven't just figured out their worth or what their value is when it comes to like time and stuff. Like, I think as you start getting older, at least in your 40s and stuff, you start understanding your mortality. Like I'm aware of my mortality. You know, I'm 40. I'll be 47. I know, you know, like I said, I might have 4 more years ago. If I got 45 more years, that's gonna put me at 90, almost 92. You know, so I know that I'm gonna die one day. So it's like, how do I want to use the amount? How do I want to use the time I have until I die? Do I want to spend it giving a whole bunch of energy to a bunch of stuff that I have no control about? Or do I want to spend it on doing things that I want to do, doing things that I enjoy, spending time with people that I enjoy spending time with? So for me, I think a lot of those people just haven't got to the point in their life where they understand their value, they understand how important time is, and they understand that, you know, to have a certain level of peace, you can't give certain amounts of your body, certain amounts of your energy to certain things. So I think that's what it is to me.
You know, I think that it gets packaged into discernment. There's an increased level of discernment as you become more aware of your mortality, right? So that's what you just, you know what I'm saying, explain the structure of where you route your feelings to.
Mm-hmm.
You figure out what you care about, some things you care more about, less about, or not at all, you know?
Yeah, I don't care about the double standard. Like, bro, I got like 45 years left. Like, I already lived 45. Like, I'm gonna get my 30-year anniversary next month. You know,
Yeah.
graduation next month, but next year, 30-year graduation. You know, so it's like, I don't see myself leaving no time soon, but I understand. I remember being 17. I remember graduating high school and no beard. And now I see all of this.
No beard.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
Yeah.
what do I really want to be giving my energy and time to? You know, and spending 17 hours on Facebook a day, trolling people and getting upset about stuff I have no control over. I just can't do it. You know what I mean? I don't understand the people who working, you know, struggling. I don't understand why they do it. You already struggling, you already stressed, you ain't got a pot to piss in, and yet you're addicted to social media, dependent
Right.
on social
You
media
got time to get on social media and pick a fight.
you go on social
And
media and fight
you're
instead of
not
like,
even
hey,
using it. Yeah, you're not even using it to network. You know what I'm
here's
saying? Like,
here's my thing. Do it. Get on there and fight. But take 2 hours of that 10 hours or 17 hours you fighting and learn a trade. You know what I mean? Learn a skill. Take a course. Buy my book. Watch my course. You know what I mean? All of those different things. Learn something, educate you. You know, I don't have a whole bunch of time. You know what I mean? So it's like I want to enjoy mine. You know what I mean? That's what I'm gonna do. So
Hey, we got brother Hines on there.
let's first be at peace. You got to be
Man,
at peace to have peace. The only peace we have is the peace that we make. That is so true.
bro.
Ain't no woman responsible for my peace. My mama is not responsible for my peace. My daddy is not responsible for my peace. All the people who did me wrong, none of those people are responsible for my peace. I am 100% responsible for my peace and my happiness. And it is a foolish thing to try to put that responsibility on someone else. No one is responsible for your happiness, and no one is responsible for your peace. You, as an individual, are 100% solely responsible for your peace and your happiness. And like Cam said again, to have peace, we must first be at peace. The only peace that there is the peace we make. Shout out to Cam.
Man, look, Camden gave you your segue for the final thought. You know what I'm saying? Chris, what you got, brother?
Mr. Hines brought up peace. A lot of us don't know what that looks like because we've been in so much turmoil for all of our lives. You know that there's you. I'm not gonna say you know, but you should actually think that there's an issue when you wake up every day looking for a fight. Like, like, like Uncle Junior said, man. And I speak, and I completely agree with that coming from where I came from. You understand what I'm saying? Going through what I went through, I understand mortality more than anybody. And I can understand that at any given moment, I could not be here. So why in the blue heaven would I waste time on any of these social media websites talking about things that A, have nothing to do with me, and B, are not making me any richer? I got other shit to do. Ugh, makes me angry. And what's crazy is the same people that are doing this, the same people that are doing these arguments and that are doing this fighting don't understand that they're being used in a bigger plot because there's this whole industry based off of us fighting that's making everybody else around us rich because we fighting.
Man,
It's the dumbest shit ever. I can't.
bro.
If more people understood that if they sat back, shut up, looked into themselves and figured out what was wrong with them, went to go fix that, and then spread that throughout the community instead of fighting with everybody else, we would be so much farther than where we are. This whole competition thing is stupid. This whole competition and complaining about double standards is stupid. You wouldn't be complaining about double standards if you were focused on what you were supposed to do, so that way you could actually fit into the double standards that benefit you instead of complaining about the ones you don't. But I'm gonna shut up.
No,
Let
you
me
don't
let me
shut up.
stop.
You got to run your mouth over here. You know what I'm saying? So, like, one of the things, like for instance, though, for people that's listening, those of you that follow me on Facebook, I don't intentionally set out to anger anybody. I say what I'm thinking, and then the rest of the social media space that's in a feeling potentially always connects their feelings or their projections to my words. Now, I do that on purpose just so we can stir the pot and have an intelligent conversation. Because based on the things that Chris has said, um, we know that there's a manipulation game taking place with the the amount of information or content that gets injected onto our social media platforms in the United States. There's studies on this about the type of content that comes out. There's been enough conversations about uh, Russia manipulating elections by using social media, creating troll groups and stuff like that. As soon as somebody gets popular in the United States on social media, there's a troll group that's built alongside it to disparage that person's efforts, regardless what it is. So the only true way to mitigate conflict is to be as transparent as possible and be forthcoming and get down to the details about the things that exist and how we navigate them, not to use them as permissive ways to go about and hurt other people. You know what I'm saying? People telling you about double standards is not an invitation to go use that to manipulate people. It's an invitation to understand that you got different obstacles out there that you're going to have to navigate, and you have to do it with logic. You can't use feelings to navigate double standards in most cases. It's usually going to come out in a catastrophic outcome. So,
What did Ben Shapiro say? Facts don't care about your feelings.
facts
Neither
do
do
not
double standards.
double standards don't either. You know what I'm saying? I like that too. Hey, hit the horn on that one, DJ. Go ahead. He get the horn on that. You ain't even you muted. You blew it, man. Come on now. You got.
So I thought it might have still went through if I.
No, man. We failed. We failed. You got to be unmuted too.
Oh, my fault.
Yeah. It's all good. It's all good, man. I don't have a lot to ask you guys for final thoughts. I think this was a very involved conversation. You know what I'm saying? Where sometimes we got to have a succinct dialogue. You know what I'm saying? Because this is the topic itself is kind of like, I didn't even want to bring it up, but I understand that it's not how simple it is, because we can simplify anything. We can oversimplify anything. Like, no big deal. It's just a double standard, blah, 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 move on. Well, we haven't had this conversation where we can define it within our own network. You know what I'm saying? We verbally have said out loud that we understand double standards exist, and we've always known this individually, but collectively we haven't said it and had this conversation in front of us because it's kind of implied. Like, we don't sit back and try to figure out who's going to have a way to impede what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? We got a plan, and our goal is going to be accomplished whether people support it or not. You know what I'm saying? We have a larger purpose to what we're doing, and we all have had that conversation. So we're talking about the way forward. So we don't have time to worry about double standards. People that worry about double standards, generally speaking, are not in a position to put anybody else in a better opportunity, because you are an expert on the problem. You're an expert on the disparity, and you're not an expert at giving opportunities because you're too focused on something you can't control. So that's generally that's my final thought. You know what I'm saying? Double standards are unhealthy competition if not looked at from the right way. They are boundaries or invitations for you to mind your own business. And a double standard sometimes exists because you got to have a need to know. You have access, but you do not have understanding all the time. Sometimes you can drown in the specifics if you get inundated with information. You know what I'm saying? So some people only give you surface information because it's not meant for you to know more than what you know at that point in time until you're responsible or you're in a different level of that grants you a different access to the information. And we know that just simply based on charges of responsibility, people that we've had to interact with, the way information has to flow and be shared. That way, when communication breaks down, you know where it broke down at. Got to have systems of communication to understand why double standards make sense too. So, that's all I got as far as final thoughts. Hey, Uncle Junior, talk to us about elevated dialogue tomorrow, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Bring us on.
Let me make sure.
Yeah.
So, elevated dialogue tomorrow, Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are going to be talking about women, right? And they're like, man, why y'all talking about women? But we also going to be talking about your mama, all right? Your aunties and all of them. So before y'all cut my head off or something, we're going to be talking about them in a positive way. So we're going to be talking about women and how they may have impacted us. We're going to talk about some good things that those women in our lives may have shared with us, but we also are going to talk about some of the things that they may have gotten wrong and some of the things that may have impacted us in a negative way. So tune in tomorrow night, Wednesday, 7 p.m. on the Uncle Junior Network, and we're gonna talk about our mamas.
I like that, man. You know, you always have a slick way of saying something else that's slick. That's kind of a double standard because if I did it, I'd get in trouble.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, you'd immediately get flagged.
Hey, look, y'all have seen my work. I don't tag nobody. I don't mention no names. But I go to the bathroom and then I come back and I got to fight.
I saw a comment on your post that was crazy. Some
Oh,
woman on your post
I already know
wishing
what
you,
you're talking about.
yeah, some woman on your post wishing you
Yeah.
luck with your lady, and then in the same exact comment saying you hate women.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me.
It's amazing.
It's amazing to me. Like, how does that work? How
How
do
did
you do that?
How do you do that?
How you hate
How?
women and then have a woman?
Right.
Yeah.
Boy, it's crazy, man.
Teach me the secret.
Yeah.
Man.
So, hey, shout out to my uncle right there. You know what I'm saying? He said, "Hey, nice pod, fellas. Great topic today. Assumed fairness is a great deceiver." Man, assumed fairness. Write that down.
Assumed fairness.
Everybody write that down.
You got that shit right.
This is
Let me
a
go
great-
ahead and get my little note cards out.
Yeah. Assumed fairness. Hey, you know when we take notes actively, you know what that shows, man? That we can be taught. Everybody can't be taught. You know what I'm saying? So with that said, look out for the double standard. Tune in to Elevated Dialogue on Wednesdays. Come back next Tuesday. Same bat time, same bat channel for Code Talk. I don't know what the topic's going to be. That's the best thing about it. You got to be here to find out. Gentlemen, Chris from across the table. Gentlemen, I appreciate you. We'll see you on the other side.
Deuces.
Hey, shout out to everybody in the chat, too, that was actively participating. Shout out to my man Cameron Hines. We're going to come see you on your podcast soon.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, he got a podcast?
Yeah, he got a podcast. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? We're going to get him up here.
I'm going to, you know what? I'm going to, let's see if I can find it real quick.
Yeah, I'm about to subscribe.
I'm going to find it. So, where is it at? Hold on, Cam. We got you, brother. I'm going to shout your spot out. Since you ain't.
Hey, to everybody else that's listening, if you got something that you want to say and you need a place to say it, come say it over here. We're gonna promote your platform. We're gonna get you socialized with the right group. We're gonna get you plugged into the network of men that are dedicated to seeing other men make progress, make success happen for their loved ones. And it's time to start being the energy that we said we wanted. You know, so it's not gonna be pretty every day. It's going to be, you know what I'm saying, some difficult points of understanding, but you don't have anything that's worth having without some level of difficulty. So with that being said, we out again.
All right. Want me to plug it real quick?
Yeah, go ahead, plug Cam, and then we get up out of here, man.
I'm about to plug it real quick. So Cam is on a network called Bold and Driven EP. Bold and Driven EP. He has a new show. It just started yesterday, and they go live every single Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern or 8 p.m. Central. Their show is called Authentic Ears Podcast. It's him and it's two other ladies. I think one of their names is Kenya, and I don't know the other ones right off the top. But anyway, they go live every Monday. Authentic Ears. I put the link in the bottom for you to subscribe to if you want to. There you go, Cam.
Boom. We in there.
See how easy that is?
Way too easy. Don't take much to promote each other, man.
Don't take much.
Go buy my book. Y'all see all the links in the caption? Cop that. We out.
We out.